There's one question that separates these two dogs, more than size, more than bite, more than anything you'll read in a breed chart, and almost nobody thinks to ask it. How alone was this dog expected to be? Because when you trace the Cane Corso and the Boerboel back to the work that shaped them, you find the same answer to what they do and the opposite answer to how they were meant to do it. The Corso almost always had a human at its shoulder. The Boerboel, for miles in every direction, often had no one at all. Hold on to that, because that single difference, the amount of backup each dog could count on, quietly decides which of these two is right for you. Picture the Corso's world first. Italy, going back through the centuries to the Roman war dogs it descends from, and then down into the farms and hills of the south, where it became the all-purpose working dog of the countryside. It drove cattle, it guarded the property, and it hunted wild boar, which is the detail that tells you the most, because a boar hunt is teamwork. The Corso worked the animal, closed on it, held it, but the hunter was right there, part of the plan, arriving to finish the job. This is a dog that spent 2,000 years operating alongside people, reading them, taking cues, functioning as half of a partnership. Everything about the modern Corso still reflects that. It is intense and powerful and territorial, but at its core it is handler-oriented. It wants a job and it wants to do that job with you. It looks to its person. Now cross the world to the Boerboels, the South African frontier, where Dutch and Afrikaner settlers pushed out onto remote farms, scattered across enormous, lonely stretches of land. The name itself tells the story, Boer meaning farmer, and the dog was built by crossing the Mastiff and Bulldog types the settlers brought with the tough indigenous dogs already there, later strengthened by big guarding dogs used to protect the diamond mines. Its job was to be the wall around a homestead that had no other wall. No neighbors within shouting distance, no help coming, and real predators in the dark. Leopards, hyenas, baboons, and human threats too. When something came for the family in the night, there was no hunter arriving to finish the job. There was only the dog, alone, making the decision and carrying it out by itself. And that produced a fundamentally different animal. The Boerboel is a self-directed guardian. It doesn't wait to be told. It assesses, decides, and acts on its own authority, because for 300 years its own authority was all there was. Watch how that one difference ripples through everything else. It shows up first in how they guard. The Corso guards like a partner. It's territorial and serious, but it tends to take its lead from you, to read whether you're at ease or on alert, and to calibrate to that. The Boerboel guards like a sovereign. It has its own settled opinions about who belongs and who doesn't, and it will enforce them whether you wade in or not. This isn't the Boerboel being disobedient, it's the Boerboel being exactly what it was made to be, the final decision maker on a farm where it truly was the final decision maker. For a lot of people, that independent judgment is the whole appeal. For others, it's genuinely more dog than they bargained for. You feel that same split most clearly the day a guest comes over, which is worth thinking about before you commit. With a Corso, your endorsement carries real weight. Introduce a friend properly. Show the dog that this person is welcome, and the Corso will generally take your word for it, because deferring to its partner is in its nature. The Boerboel weighs your opinion against its own, and its own often wins. It may accept the visitor because you insisted, and it may quietly decide to keep watching them from across the room all evening regardless of what you said. Neither reaction is wrong. One is a dog built to trust its handler's read of a situation. The other, a dog built to trust the read it makes itself, out on a farm where trusting the wrong stranger could cost everything. Plan your household, your visitors, and your delivery drivers accordingly. It shows up just as sharply in trainability, and here the Corso pulls ahead for most owners. Because it was bred to work with a person, the Corso is more naturally responsive, more inclined to look to you for direction, and more rewarding to train if you put in the structure early. The Boerboel is highly intelligent, make no mistake, but that self-reliant streak means it questions authority in a way the Corso is less prone to. It needs an owner who is not just consistent, but genuinely, quietly dominant, someone it decides to respect. Hand a Boerboel to a soft or uncertain owner, and it will simply appoint itself the head of the household, because filling that vacancy is precisely what its ancestors did for a living. Size and raw power run the other way, and it's worth being clear-eyed about it. The Corso is an athlete, lean and agile for a mastiff, usually somewhere around 100 pounds, built for speed and stamina and the quick, committed movements of a catchdog. The Boerboel is simply bigger and heavier, often well over 150 pounds of dense, blocky muscle, built less for the chase and more to be an immovable, overpowering force. So let's talk about living with them, starting with family, because both breeds surprise people here. Behind the intimidating exterior, both are deeply, almost tenderly devoted to their own people. The Corso bonds intensely to its family and is famously affectionate with them, a hard, serious dog that turns to warm putty for the humans it loves. The Boerboel is, if anything, even more of a family dog in the traditional sense, often wonderful and patient with the children of its own home, having been bred specifically to protect that home's family. The shared caution is the obvious one. These are enormous, powerful animals with strong protective instincts, so both demand early, thorough socialization so they learn to read the world correctly, and both need supervision around small children simply because of their size and strength. Raised right, both are magnificent with their people. Raised wrong, both are too much power with no brakes. Neither is a first-time owner dog, and I'd be doing you a disservice to suggest otherwise, but if I had to rank the difficulty, the Boerboel is the steeper climb. The Corso's handler focus gives a committed, educated novice a fighting chance. The Boerboel's independence and sheer dominance really do call for prior experience with large, strong-willed guardian breeds. This is not a starter guardian. It's a graduate-level one. Health deserves honesty for both, and neither escapes clean, as tends to be the way with big, heavy dogs. Both are prone to hip and elbow problems, and both carry the frightening risk of bloat. Both can have eyelid issues, and both, being large breeds, live shorter lives than we'd ever want, generally somewhere around 9 to 11 years. Loving either one means a good breeder who health tests, a vet you trust, and eyes open to the fact that these giants don't get nearly enough time. So which is better? As always, the truthful answer wears the shape of the person asking. If you want a versatile, athletic, deeply loyal guardian that works with you, that channels its intensity into training and activity and looks to you as its partner, a dog serious enough to protect and responsive enough to guide, the Cane Corso is the better choice, and it's the more sensible pick for the majority of committed owners who aren't seasoned guardian handlers. If you are experienced, confident, and specifically want a massive, independent, self-directed protector, a dog that will make its own calls and hold its own ground with a kind of ancient certainty, and you have the presence to be the one thing it willingly answers to, the Boerboel is unmatched at exactly that, because standing alone as the last line of defense is the precise thing it was carved out of the frontier to do. That's the whole comparison in a sentence.